Can everyone hear me? No?
Louder.
How about now? Is this okay to move? Can you hear me now?
Better.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jess Molaski, Chief Operating Officer of Ovation Development, and it's an honor to welcome you to Heirloom at Pebble, one of our newest senior affordable communities in the Valley, opening next month. This morning's event is a perfect backdrop to discuss Assembly Bill 540, a bold and much-needed step forward for housing in Nevada. At Ovation, housing has been in our DNA for 3 generations. My grandfather, Erwin Molaski, helped pioneer multifamily development in Las Vegas. My father, Alan, carried that vision forward, and today, I'm proud to continue that legacy. Together, we've built more than 13,000 apartment homes across 56 communities in southern Nevada. So when we say Nevada needs more housing, we speak from deep experience. AB 540 is about building more. It's a supply-side solution at a time when supply is the problem. And the data is clear. Apartments are workforce housing. When Governor Lombardo's team began crafting this legislation, they engaged with Ovation and other developers to understand what's truly blocking production and where opportunity lies. We were proud to help elevate the voices of those in the missing middle. Now, if you've heard that term and wondered what it actually means, the missing middle refers to the Nevadans who earn too much to qualify for low-income housing, but not enough to comfortably afford today's rents. These are our teachers, our nurses, public employees, hospitality workers, the backbone of our communities, and our neighbors. AB 540 is designed for them. It establishes a new category of affordable housing, attainable housing, targeted at those earning up to 150% of area median income. For many in that 80 to 120% AMI range, apartments are not just a preference, they're the only feasible option in today's market. Unlike deeply subsidized housing, market rate apartments are scalable, sustainable, and flexible. They don't require years of layered financing or depend on limited public subsidies. They can get built and fast. AB 540 recognizes that. Just as importantly, this legislation puts real dollars on the table. $200 million to unlock projects that have stalled due to today's challenging interest rate environment. That funding is critical to getting shovels back in the ground. Governor Lombardo, thank you for your leadership, for listening to the development community, and for putting forward a common sense, pro-housing plan that can actually move the needle. At Ovation, we're proud to support AB 540, and we're ready to help deliver the housing Nevada needs. Thank you. Governor?
Well, welcome everybody. Before I get into my formal comments, I got to thank Jess and his comments that he made. One of the things I don't have inclusive in my comments is what he mentioned, how prior to this session, affordable housing has always been a focal point of mine, but inclusive of that is what is currently going on nationwide. Affordable housing, attainable housing is, if you look at polling data across the board, no matter what subject matter it is, affordable housing comes to the top, rises to the top. And do we want to do that in a myopic view, or do we want to open it up and get everybody's opinion, especially the subject matter experts in the field, to determine what is the best approach to solve the problem? And we did that. As a matter of practice in my administration, whenever it's a particular issue, we bring the folks in the community together to help develop the solutions on what the issues are, and without the government interjection. Because quite often we lose sight of what success looks like in the government process, or we're ignorant to the reality of what is occurring out in the community. So I think it's important for people to realize that, and this group to realize that, and the press to hear that. This isn't an idea that just came from myself. It came from everybody in the community that knows the business. And it's important for that to occur in order that we ensure we have success with the ideas. That being said, I'll provide you with some formal comments and as we process through here. So, good afternoon, everyone. First, allow me to thank Jess. Where's Alan? Alan, thank you. Thank you. And Ovation Development for hosting us today at Heirloom, right? I practiced that. At Heirloom at Pebble Apartments. This is a brand new development of affordable senior apartment in its final phase of construction. And I understand you'll be open in the next 4 weeks. And I call upon the press to take the opportunity to walk around this project so you can have a very comprehensive understanding what we're trying to achieve in the attainable housing space at the conclusion of the press conference here. So Jess and his dad Alan and the entire team at Ovation are doing incredible work in increasing the supply of apartments, affordable housing, and affordable senior housing in Nevada. And for reference, this is affordable senior housing at this location. Ovation properties are top-notch, and they reflect great design and quality. They also represent what we can get done when government and industry partner together for the good of our communities. Jess, thank you for hosting us today, and thank you for your partnership. Thank you, sir. As you may know, each legislative session, the governor is generally allotted 5 key bills to introduce. This year, I'm introducing bills to expand health care, lower the cost of housing, implement accountability as standards go in education, and diversify our economy and strengthen public safety. So each one of those key subject matter falls back to what I alluded to at the beginning of this. We're bringing in partners and subject matter experts to define the solutions versus identifying the problems. And we're here today to discuss the first of those 5 bills, which is the Nevada Housing Access and Attainability Act, also known as Assembly Bill 540. And for reference, it will be introduced tomorrow at the legislature at 5 p.m. So all my support will be there. Well, at least I asked them. Before I get into this bill's details, I want to thank all of the industry partners I have here with me today. One being Jess and Alan, Steve Acroft. Steve, thank you for being here. Steve is my administrator of the Nevada Housing Division. Tina Frias, the CEO of Southern Nevada Home Builders Association. Thank you, Tina. Peter Guzman, the president of the Latin Chamber of Commerce. Peter, thank you. And Tommy White. Everybody knows Tommy. Secretary Treasurer of the local 872 laborers. Today, all of these leaders will share why they're excited for this housing bill and the positive impact it will have on their industry. To get into some details, what is that? Oh, there. To get into some details, my bill creates and establishes the Nevada Attainable Housing Fund and Council. The fund will dedicate $250 million in state resources to support the development of over $1 billion of affordable workforce and attainable housing. $1 billion plus. Woo! I'm sure the press is going to have an infinite number of questions of what that means, $250 million, and the multiplier associated with it. And Steve will get into those details and help you better understand that as I finish my comments and bring him forward. The fund supports these efforts through grants, loans, and rebates, prioritizing impactful projects that address Nevada's most pressing housing challenges. My bill also expands the definition of what affordable housing is in the state of Nevada. My bill expands affordable housing eligibility to households earning up to 150% AMI, area median income, which will support essential workers like teachers, nurses, and first responders. The middle mile, right? The missing middle. These essential workers are education, public safety, and healthcare leaders in our community. And they deserve access to affordable and attainable homes in the very neighborhoods they serve. My bill also authorizes the Housing Division to lower income thresholds as interest rates fall and affordability improves. So it's nebulous. It's not nebulous. It's a living document, the ability to adjust depending on the economy. And to further support housing development, my bill mandates an expedited review and permitting process for attainable housing projects across all relevant state agencies and regulated utilities. I'm serious about cutting red tape, and I think my track record proves that. Since taking office, my administration has streamlined 447 regulations and repealed 643 of them. There we go. I think it's important. That's a big deal. Every head official that comes into government talks about regulations and the inability to do quick, good, quality business as a result of over cumbersome regulations. And we're actually doing something about it. In a short order, in a matter of 2 years, we've done over 1,000. We've addressed over 1,000 of those, and we'll continue to do that through the rest of my administration. These measures enhance the financial viability of projects and streamline approvals, ensuring timely deliveries of affordable housing to meet our state's needs. My bill also seeks to address unique housing needs in rural Nevada. My bill establishes enhanced licensing reciprocity for contractors in rural Nevada, specifically in regions identified as having an acute workforce housing supply shortage. Some of you may have seen some of the media coverage out there at Lithium Americas and the Thacker Pass mine outside of Winnemucca. And part of that was going through the workforce housing piece and identifying the ability to bring in permanency with that. It's all temporary as it was adjusted. And for us to expand into the rural space, the economic engines of the state, workforce housing becomes the key. And the ability to bring in builders who are void within those specific area helps us in that endeavor. By streamlining the licensing process for qualified out-of-state contractors in these designated areas, my bill ensures that critical housing projects can access the skilled labor needed to address housing shortages effectively and without unnecessary delays. As our state grows and our workforce develops, those seeking new jobs and opportunity in rural Nevada should have ample housing options to choose from. And while advocating for my legislation, I'll also continue to hold the line against policies that will take us in the wrong direction, like rent control.
Hear, hear.
Did everybody get that? And construction defect changes. Two key components in the hindrance of what we're trying to achieve. Lastly, my housing plan also calls for continued collaboration with the federal government to release more federal land for housing development in Nevada. As I've said before, 85% of Nevada's land is managed by the federal government, which has previously limited our ability to expand on housing availability. Elizabeth, can I mention the text message I got from my chief of staff here?
Yes, sir.
So, quite often you'll hear administrators say we're talking to the Beltway, we're talking to the federal government, we're talking with our partners attempting to achieve what our goals are, in particular the release of federal land. So as early as today, we had an agreement, an MOU with the Bureau of Land Management to identify, codify the state lands that are available within the state of Nevada. And they asked us to be a signatory on the MOU, and they anticipate it will be signed by May 1st.
All right.
And you've heard me all along the way talk about that conversation, and I'm proud to say it's actually happening. And we know how slow the federal government is to react, and that's understandable in a lot of aspects because there's a far-reaching authority that goes there, but in this case we've had more accomplished in this short period of time with the Bureau of Land Management than we've had in several years. So I'm very, very happy to report that to you today. So just last week this is additional, I request that Nevada be added to the Joint Task Force on Federal Land for Housing so that Nevada can be an active part of the conversations with the U.S. Department of Interior and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Two separate entities. We're talking about BLM and then we're talking about HUD and the Department of Interior. But they all work together within the federal beltway, and it's part of the solution we're trying to achieve. While housing is one of the most serious challenges we face in our state today, my Nevada Housing Access and Affordability Act will provide unprecedented relief and opportunity in our housing market. It's my hope that every Nevadan will be able to realize their dream of home ownership.
Yes.
So I want to thank everybody for listening. And with that being said, it's my pleasure to introduce Steve Across. Steve, if you come forward. with the Nevada Housing Division to discuss more about the bill.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is going to be way too far away, so I will use my dad voice to the best of my abilities. I'm Steve Acroft, the Administrator of the Nevada Housing Division. As you've heard, all over the country, we are seeing housing challenges that are extremely severe. And as the Administrator of the Nevada Housing Division, the division has engaged in this space. We've witnessed the need for an expansion of our services. The Housing Division occupies the space where developers, absent financial assistance, literally cannot develop because the deals don't pencil. And when the deals don't pencil, stuff like this just does not get built. It is in this space where we see the need for the governor's Housing Access and Attainability Act. For the last 9 months, the Housing Division has worked with the governor's task force to support the solutions that were being brought forward by our local governments, builders, developers, for-profit, nonprofit, and market rate, financial institutions, and advocates. We also engaged into the depth of the details to make sure that when the Nevada Housing Access and Attainability Act is signed into law, that the Housing Division can implement our part and deploy resources expediently to bring assistance and relief to our Nevada families and our essential workforce that keep our communities safe, healthy, and prosperous. Today I want to focus on the $250 million that will be part of this act. First, let me start by saying that the details I'm sharing with you are merely a framework. They're in pencil, not in pen, but they help inform the investment of the over $1 billion that you heard mentioned. The final programming of the Nevada Attainable Housing Account will come with the guidance and support of the Nevada Attainability Housing Council that is also established in this act. The investment of $200 million of general funds is proposed in the act. But at the request of Governor Lombardo and his staff, the Housing Division analyzed its trust funds and determined that we could designate $50 million over the next few years to support the loans that will catalyze the type of housing supply that is not getting currently built. Our starter homes, duplexes, triplexes, quads, townhomes, the homes that need to be built to ensure more attainable housing in our supply. The division's funds will come alongside the general funds, and we have estimated that $125 million of the Nevada Attainable Housing Account will revolve every 1.5 to 4 years, depending on what it is, creating a true revolving loan fund. And so that's how you get those multipliers that the governor was mentioning to do this. So, Jess, I'm going to turn to you real quick. We financially closed about 2 years ago, and you'll be opening in about 4 months or 4 weeks. So if we provided, and we didn't in this particular case, but if we provided a construction loan on this or helped buy down that construction loan, the interest on that, potentially we're getting paid off when it goes to the permanent phase, and then we can revolve those funds. So the loans will support the construction of new developments. Those will remain assets of the division's trust, so we can continue to issue the hundreds of millions of bonds annually for home ownership and multifamily rental housing that were part of this construction. Supply is the top priority and the foundational solution for our housing crisis. The governor and the task force recognize that supply tomorrow will not necessarily ease the pains today. And with that, the remaining $125 million has been imagined initially as potential loans, matching grants, down payment assistance, rental assistance, supportive housing advancements, and rebates to support Nevadans across the income spectrum of up to 150% area median income. This is a major shift for the Housing Division, but one that makes sense in these economic times. The addition of a higher income tier allows the Housing Division to target its programming support for many of the essential workers in Nevada who work really, really hard but make too much money for any assistance, but still can't qualify for a mortgage. Working through the task force recommendations, the Housing Division estimates that for every dollar invested through the $250 million fund, there will be a leverage ratio of over 5 times, which provides program impacts of well over $1 billion. Or to put it in numbers we can all appreciate, over the next 4 years, this $250 million investment will support about 16,000 Nevadan households through new home construction, access to home ownership, access to stable housing through critical rental assistance, and supportive services. And so with that, I will now turn it over to Tina, unless you'd like to do that.
Just one thing, Steve, can you clarify, there's also a tranche of funds within the $250 million that is supplied to local entities, local government, as matching grants. It's important for people to realize it, because a lot of your counties and cities operate in the space in their own functionality, and to help have that assistance that come from the state, it means it's inclusive of several more edifices or residences that we're trying to address. Tina, would you step forward?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tina Frias, and I have the privilege of being the CEO of the Southern Nevada Home Builders Association, also known as SNHBA, and as Nevada's largest and oldest trade association representing the residential construction industry. Southern Nevada remains one of the fastest growing communities in the nation during the past half century. Yet, rising land costs, a shortage of skilled labor, and regulatory obstacles have made it increasingly challenging for us to provide the supply of homes that our market needs. Governor Lombardo's Nevada Housing Access and Attainability Act is a vital step forward. The act was developed hand in hand with Nevada home builders, ensuring that the solutions put forward are realistic, effective, and capable of addressing the barriers to new home construction. When government and industry come together, we can achieve policies that empower builders to build more attainable homes. So let's talk about a few components of the bill that SNHBA believes will have a meaningful impact. Expanding housing opportunities. The Act incentivizes the construction of more homes, designed to provide realistic housing solutions for the hard-working Nevadans who serve our communities every day, but do not qualify for the traditional affordable housing programs. AB 540 addresses that critical gap, ensuring that our teachers, nurses, first responders, and so many other essential workers have a genuine pathway to the communities in which we build. $250 million in housing investments aim to unlock over $1 billion in development. The Nevada Attainable Housing Fund commits $250 million in state resources to leverage over $1 billion in new workforce and attainable housing projects. These funds will be strategically allocated through grants, loans, rebates to maximize its impact, cutting development costs and reducing regulatory hurdles. The Act reduces development fees through a sliding scale reimbursement model, making housing projects more financially viable. It streamlines approvals and expedites permitting to ensure that our housing projects don't become unnecessarily delayed. Encouraging smart growth. The Act prioritizes cost-effective, innovative solutions that incentivize both efficient and sustainable home building. It fosters public-private partnerships, bringing together developers, government, and community leaders to tackle our housing challenges collaboratively. Governor Lombardo certainly exhibits strong leadership in housing solutions, as AB 540 is part of a broader effort by our governor to increase housing supply and affordability. As you heard him mention, he has been a major advocate in advocating for more land for development in our state. He has been a critical voice in that advocacy, including the BLM MOU that he just announced today, as well as his recent letter to the United States Department of Interior and Department of Housing and Urban Development calling for Nevada representation in the Federal Joint Task Force on federal land for housing. SNHBA recognizes that solving Nevada's housing crisis will require a unified effort. We need the right policies, smart investments, and regulatory reforms to build homes faster, more affordably, and at the scale that our community needs. That's exactly what the Nevada Housing Access and Attainability Act is designed to do. Simply put, AB 540 paves the way to homeownership for more Nevadans. By reducing barriers and unlocking the full potential of our state's home building industry, this legislation seeks to deliver real relief. It's a balanced, forward-thinking approach that supports builders, strengthens communities, and makes quality housing more attainable. SNHBA is proud to support this legislation and to continue to work alongside Governor Lombardo to make this vision a reality. Thank you so much. And with that, I would like to invite up Peter Guzman. Is that okay, Governor?
Thank you. I have the privilege of being the president of the Latin Chamber of Commerce. When this gentleman was campaigning for governor, housing came up over and over again. When this gentleman became governor, one of the first things he did was put together 17 transition teams, and the first one was housing. So it has been an honor for me to be part of the working policy group to help prepare this legislation. The Latin Chamber of Commerce cares about housing because housing touches every single piece of our communities. It is part of the American dream. The Latin Chamber of Commerce represents hardworking small business owners who bring their dreams, jobs, and ambitions to our state. Part of their dream is that they will be able to afford the American dream, a house in a community that they've chosen to live, start their business in, and raise their families. Every Nevadan deserves to have access to attainable and what I like to call dignified housing in their community. Dignified housing is what you see right behind us. No longer cylinder blocks and swamp coolers. This is dignified housing. The Nevada Housing Access and Attainability Act allows for a chance at the American dream. Lastly, I commend you, Governor. I commend you for encouraging the policy group to come together and think outside the box, to explore ideas and to share those ideas so that we can come up with a housing sector and keep it moving. Keeping it moving means the guys behind us are working and are spending good dollars in our community. That's why it takes all of us together. This affects every aspect of our economy, and make no mistake about this. Real estate can lift people out of generational poverty. So I support getting construction going as quickly as possible and creating opportunities for those in our great state of Nevada. Thank you. And with that, I have the pleasure and honor of introducing my friend Tommy White.
The governor tells me to keep it clean, so I was hoping that it was going to rain or the wind was going to come and I wasn't going to be able to have to do this. So I thought I got out of public speaking when we were done with the Raiders stadium. So a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank everybody for showing up for this. This is very important to the governor, not only to the governor, but also to our community for several reasons. I'll start with Local 872 has been around since 1937. And if we go back, a lot of the building that was done in Las Vegas prior to building resorts was housing, and we did it. And if Southern Nevada Home Builders looks back in their agreements, you will find agreements with Labor's Local 872. And it was a big part of the growth of our union. We used to do all the infrastructure. We did the gas lines. We did the plumbing. And we've done that for a lot of years. And then the boom hits Las Vegas in the 90s. And what does all the unions do is forget about the housing, which brings us where we are today. We feel confident that once this bill gets passed, and we're going to support this bill, and we're going to be right with the governor on this, that we'll be able to build these homes, build these buildings. Unlike other states, if you know anything about Las Vegas, we can build them better, and we can build them faster, and we can build them without any problems. We've learned that on several of these major projects that we have here. So we're looking forward to pushing this bill for the governor, not only pushing the bill for the governor, but pushing the bill for all of the construction workers and all the essential workers out there that need affordable living, that need a place to go. And we believe we can build these fast, get them done. With the governor's bill, with the timeline being cut, we can do these probably faster than anywhere else in the United States. Thank you, everybody, and I want to thank the governor also.
That brings us to the end of the speakers, so I'm happy to entertain a couple questions before the rain hits. Steve, come on up here because I'm sure they're going to get technical.
I might need to bring my notes.
Summer Lombardo,
Hi.
running with News 3. Right now, there is the big concern about tariffs hitting us and how that may impact construction costs. So, is that a concern as you're going forward with this bill, and how much it will now be to construct a home, because they are already expensive?
Right, and that's the reason why we're participating in this process. Obviously, the tariffs are the great unknown in how we deal with the logistics associated with construction. But if you recall in my words or some of my comments, it's a nebulous percentage rate and loan terms and everything else that goes along with the ROI that the developer has to go through. So we'll make adjustments on the fly depending on the economic outlook.
Governor, this bill, as you said, expands eligibility for people making up to 150% of the average median income. Are you convinced that there is enough resources for people on the lower end that make between 30 and 40 and 50% of that average median income?
Right, and it's a great question. And when we get into the bill presentation tomorrow, but we're not here. I mean, obviously we're here, not there tomorrow. That 250 is all that is tranched out, and so the existing amounts that were contributed to that lower AMI 120 down to 60 down to 30, that's all identified, and so we'll have equal amounts addressing each one of those tranches.
So, in the discussion about eviction diversion, there's been criticisms from Democrats that eviction process is much too fast. And Assemblymember Max Carter just reintroduced legislation changing the summary eviction process. Vetoed that last time. If that got back to your desk, would you veto that again?
I'd have to see the language. So the admonishment or the advisement that goes along with the veto message is important. And so for the new legislation of similar nature to come forward, hopefully those advisements or the information that I provide to justify the vetoes are addressed.
In the same vein as Chris's question about tariffs, we're also starting to see that international tourism is down from Canada, and I think a lot of Trump's policies nationwide have raised concerns about another recession, about concerns about the state impact to the state budget. Are you still confident in Trump's economic plan, and what are your opinions on how they might affect?
Right, so the government works in all different tentacles, right? Different spokes of the wheel, and you have financing that goes along with that, and you have to triage or determine what your priorities are. And when we were having conversations not long ago about Medicaid, Medicare, and what services would be addressed if we had some issues that came out of the Beltway reference, that space. So you have to identify what the priorities are, and housing is a priority. housing's a priority, and we'll make adjustments within the state budget, which may require diminished services. Okay, and that's the obligation of the governor and his authority and the legislative oversight in order to identify those needs and prioritize them.
You mentioned an MOU with the BLM that likely be signed by May 1st. Did they identify how much land specifically here in Clark County is available for building?
No, so that's the purpose of the MOU. Is there isn't a mapping program that's been codified in statute, and what I mean by that, there's several amounts of state land or federal land that is encumbered, but there's not a comprehensive map that identifies all that. It's usually done by counties versus statewide, and the resource program via the BLM will be brought together with us all sitting at the table and do it in short order. So if you talk about government vernacular, this has been occurring for decades, okay? And there's a promise that goes along with it that we'll do it in a short period of time with all the players at the table at the same time.
What kind of opposition do you anticipate AB 540 to face at this point?
Hopefully none.
What, if any? What are you preparing to answer to?
Well, you know, in government, there's negotiations, right? There's give and take. This gentleman's question here. So we'll identify what is of importance to the Democrats and what is important to me and the executive branch, and we'll hopefully be able to have a consensus and what I perceive as fantastic legislation for and important legislation and the priority of the constituents of the state of Nevada. Not personal projects.
Have those conversations started?
Yes, they have. Yes, they have.
Governor, you mentioned the influence of out-of-state investors on the housing market in your State of the State address. How does this bill address that concern of yours?
It's separate and apart. This bill doesn't particularly identify that particular issue.
Have you considered at all, giving preference to local builders or local contractors?
Yeah, so I mean, if you read the bill in its entirety, it's codified with that vernacular. But back to the corporate or the outside investors, that becomes a tax and fair tax spread in how you encumber taxes and how you receive taxes. And in the Constitution, it's identified, so it's hard to separate one particular entity and make sure that everybody's addressing investment and encumbrance fairly.
How will this bill help the prices of overall homes go down, if at all?
Well, it's all inventory based, right? So if you bring this into the inventory, it's supply and demand and fair market, and hopefully that will drive down the overall price.
Governor, how are you going to ensure that there is enough work here for contractors? Because we see in Southern California, they are going to start rebuilding following those fires. There's a lot of opportunities out there. So how are we going to make sure work is staying here in Nevada, contractors want to build here in Nevada?
Exactly what Steve just identified and just identified. It's that return on investment, the ability to pencil it out. And with the program and incentives provided by the government to go into that equation, it'll be more profitable for them to be in this space versus another space. And then when you go out into the rural areas where we have a workforce deficiency, hopefully the processing of the permitting and ability to get boots on the ground sooner than later versus the encumbrance regulations that go in, the zoning that goes along with it, will be able to make it more profitable. One of the big issues we deal with, Kristen, is you get approval, you purchase the land, and then it's the easements and the permitting and the zoning requirements that go along with it. And that's dead time that the developers are spending money, staging supplies, staging resources, identifying equipment that has to be on scene. If we can speed up that process, that makes it a better return on investment.
We have time for one more question.
Governor Lombardo reported recently that the largest single homeowner in Clark County is a New York hedge fund. Does that concern you at all? And is there anything the state can do about that?
Well, yeah, that was the question that was presented, right? Yes, it is. And we have some language in this existing bill that identifies that, but it's going to require a separate piece of legislation to better understand the tax implications on that, the ability to get past tax implications. And I know the Democrats are bringing forward some legislation in that same space too. But there's going to be some due diligence that goes along with it.
Can locals, say you're a local teacher, firefighter, whatever it may be, and they're looking for, they already have a home, maybe a condo, but they want maybe a bigger home, or they want to keep their apartment rent out, would they be able to qualify, or would this only be for first-time home buyers necessarily? Number one.
So the program is, current programs are really designed for first-time home buyers, as Mr. Guzman indicated, to develop that generational wealth.
But how are you going to make sure these are the first-time home buyers?
There's federal rules regarding this.
Governor Lombardo, Ryan Kuzminski with 8 News Now. How are you making Nevada a place where people can afford to live?
Were we just having an hour-long press conference right for a second? This is what we're doing right here. This is what we're doing. We're putting people to work. We're developing ideas to ensure that they stay at work and they have a long-term job. It's just not a short-term job, and expanding upon the economy. And the overall consensus of this is diversification of the economy, and that's education, right? Jobs that pay well versus just traditional low-paying jobs that have vision for your quality of life, right? Education, jobs that pay well, and making it affordable for them to purchase a home to ensure that they remain within the state of Nevada and they have a good quality of life.
Perfect.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.